Alright, so we're going to learn about the preterite past tense verbs. Now that's kind of a weird word, you've probably never seen it before, preterite. But preterite just means basically past tense. And so what is past tense? Well, first of all, before I delve into this into Spanish much, let's talk about it in English. When we do past tense in English, it's usually by adding ed to the end of a word. So for example, to watch is watched. Okay, to walk is walked, etc. But of course we have irregulars in past tense in English too. For example, to speak, we don't say speaked, we say spoke. Eat, we don't say eated, we say ate. Go, we don't say goed, we say went. Okay, so we have some irregulars, and so know that past tense is quite variable in English, whereas in Spanish, there's going to be irregulars too, but there's also going to be some just patterns that we need to learn first. Okay, so before I go any further, though, we need to understand that in Spanish there are actually two past tenses. One is called the preterite, that's the one we're going to be learning today, and it represents in the past tense actions that are completed. These are actions that are done and over with, began and ended. For example, I went to the store yesterday. That's something that started and ended yesterday. It's over in the past. I went is the verb that's in the past tense in English. The other past tense in Spanish is the imperfect past tense. It represents actions in the past that were done repeatedly, over and over again. For example, I went to the store every day. Now in both those example sentences, the verb is the same in English, went. But in Spanish, once we really get into this later this semester, we're going to see that went in this context are different verbs, because one will be preterite verb, one will be the imperfect verb. And so, for now though, let's just look at the preterite. So before we go any further, we need to remember these, our subject pronouns, and you should know these by now. Yo, tú, usted, él, ella, nosotros, vosotros, ustedes, ellos, ellas, because we can't conjugate verbs and learn our new tenses without reviewing these and knowing these well. So now let's look at how we do AR verbs. Now in the past, when we did present tense, AR verbs were simply done by dropping AR and adding O for yo, as for tú, a for usted, él, ella, amos for nosotros, ais for vosotros, an for ustedes, ellos, ellas, but that was present tense. Preterite past tense follows a similar pattern where we drop AR off the end of an AR verb and then we add endings, but the endings are different than they were in the present tense verbs. So the ending of the verb changes the tense. So for AR verbs, we drop AR, and for yo, it's going to be E. That's the letter E with an accent. It's important we get that accent in there. Okay. Tú, the to form of the verb would be haste. So we drop AR and add haste for the to form of the verb. Usted, él, and ella are all the same. We drop the AR and add O with an accent. Now make sure the O has an accent, because if it doesn't, then it's the yo present tense of the verb. We'll look at some examples. Nosotros is amos. Now notice that's exactly the same as the present tense. No different. Just the context will be different. Vosotros will be hastes. So for in Spain I needed to say you all in the past tense, we say vosotros, and our verb would end in hastes. And then ustedes, ellos, and ellas would be aron, A-R-O-N. Now, let's take an example now and see how we would use it. For example, the verb hablar, to speak. So the past tense in English of speak is spoke. So how would you say, I spoke? Well, you would drop AR off the end of hablar and add in letter E with an accent. So it would sound like this, hablé. So yesterday I spoke with my mother. Ayer hablé con mi mamá. Hablé. The to form would be hablaste. Hablaste. So you drop AR and add haste. And that would mean you spoke. Or, if it was a question, did you speak? But we don't do the did in the past tense in Spanish. We just say, did you speak? Hablaste. Usted, él, and ella would be habló. Now notice how I said that. Habló. If we were doing the yo present tense of that verb, it would be hablo, versus the preterite would be usted, él, ella, habló. Nosotros is hablamos. Now that's the same as the present tense. So how are we going to know the difference? Well, there'll be context. For example, I spoke with my mother on the phone last night. That word last night gives us the clue. Ding, ding, ding. That's past tense. So we would say, anoche nosotros hablamos con mi mamá. Vosotros is hablasteis. And then ustedes, ellos hablaron. They spoke. That's an AR verb. Haste o. Amos hastesaron. I have a little song to remember those endings in order. Haste o. Amos hastesaron. Haste o. Amos hastesaron. There you go. Now there are some irregulars that we need to be familiar with. First of all, any word that ends in gar has a g sound. Gar, jugar, llegar, pagar. Notice how the G is pronounced. G. Well, we don't want to lose that when we do the preterite. And there's a problem. In Spanish, if you were to put a G with an E, it has a h sound. So in order to keep the g sound, we add a silent U. Okay, so the yo form of jugar is jugué. Notice no stem change now. No boot verbs in the preterite tense. Jugué. The yo form of llegar, llegué. Yo form of pagar, pagué. I'll have a U in order to keep that G sound. Now that's only going to happen on the yo form. The to form is just going to be jugaste, llegaste, pagaste, no U. Same thing with verbs that end in car. They have the sound k. Tocar, sacar, marcar. In order to keep that k sound and not have it change to a s sound that the C can make when it's with an E or an I, instead we use a QU and then the ending E, the letter E. So for example, the yo form of tocar is yo toqué. Sacar, yo saqué. Marcar, yo marqué. And all those have a QU instead of a C in order to keep that k sound. Now that only again happens on the yo form, not on the to form. Tocaste, sacaste, marcaste. Doesn't have to have a QU on those because there's no phonetic problem. And the last irregular is verbs that end in ZAR, like comenzar and empezar. The Z changes to C. Comencé and empecé. So that's AR verbs. Now let's move on to ER and IR verbs. So same pattern, but this time ER and IR verbs are exactly the same endings. No difference at all when they're in the preterite tense. And so we drop ER, IR off the end and we add I, iste, yo, imos, istes, ieron. So the yo form, I. Tú, iste. Usted, él, ella, yo. Nosotros, imos. Vosotros, isteis, and ellos, ieron. So let's take the verb comer, to eat. If I want to say I ate, I would say yo comí. Did you eat? Tú comiste. He ate, she ate, él, ella comió. We ate, nosotros comimos. Vosotros comisteis. They ate, ellos comieron. Okay. Now notice that on an ER verb, the nosotros form is different than the present tense, whereas an IR verb it would be the same. Okay. So let's do an IR verb like escribir, to write. In the past tense in English, that's wrote. So I wrote, escribí. Did you write? Escribiste. He wrote, escribió. We wrote, escribimos. You all wrote, escribisteis. They wrote, escribieron. And then one irregularity is the verb leer, because as a three vowels problem, the L and A form, the I changes to Y. Notice on the bottom, leyó and leyeron, instead of an I, it's a Y. Okay, so I hope this gave you a brief introduction of how to use preterite verbs.